Donald Trump shakeup at the UN. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. I'm starting to think that Donald Trump's best move as president so far just might be shaking up the chummy club that is the United Nations. I know you heard all about it the other day from all the mainstream media outlets. They all said that as of 100 days in the Oval Office, Trump had accomplished nothing. Now, I disagreed with that. I did up my own top 5 list for my radio show, pointing to things like Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court, approving the Keystone XL pipeline, expanding oil and gas exploration. But what I didn't have on my list, and probably should have, was his UN shakeup. And now I'm starting to think it might be his best move yet. Trump appointed former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, a solid conservative, to the position of ambassador to the United States. And he gave her a mandate to do things differently. And is she ever? In a place where Israel is often denounced more than all other countries combined, where diplomats go along to get along rather than calling out the oppressive regimes that take up so much space there, Nikki Haley, acting for President Trump, is bringing a different attitude. She's called out Russia and China on their foot-dragging regarding Syria and North Korea. Then there was the vote on Saudi Arabia joining the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. That's right, I wish I was joking, but we've got a video of the vote.
Having obtained the necessary majority, I declare elected from the Asia-Pacific states, Iraq, Republic of Korea, Japan, Turkmenistan, Saudi Arabia, to the Commission on the Status of Women for a 4-year term beginning at the first meeting to be held in 2018 of the Commission's 63rd session and expiring at the close of the Commission's 66th session in 2022.
Now, here's how the UN describes this body. The Commission on the Status of Women is the principal global intergovernmental body exclusively dedicated to the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women. All right, let's compare that to how the Saudis actually treat women. They don't allow them to drive, with rare exception. Women can't leave the house without their male guardian or permission thereof. The male guardian has the power to make decisions for the woman or the women he's in charge of. A woman's testimony not as highly valued as a man in a court of law. And yet this country will soon be on the principal global intergovernmental body exclusively dedicated to the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women. Something doesn't seem right here to me. By the way, the Saudis are also eyeing a top spot on another UN body. We could soon see Iran, Qatar, and the Saudis heading up a UNESCO body. Will anyone say anything about that move? Probably not. But how does this whole thing about the Saudis and the Women's Commission, the Status of Women's Commission, relate back to Trump and his shaking up of the UN? Well, because for the most part, there haven't been real votes for these positions in years. Everyone's acclaimed, everyone gets their turn. It's like kindergarten, but with nuclear weapons. This time, the Americans, because of Trump's new view towards the UN and because of Haley, forced a vote. Now, it was a secret ballot vote, but we know there were 54 votes up for grabs, but the Saudis only got 47, which has to be embarrassing for them. Iraq got 54. As I've shown you before, and as UN Watch has pointed out, at least 15 of these democratic countries had to vote for the Saudis based on the numbers. We can assume the United States wasn't one of them, but thanks to Trump shaking up the system, people are asking questions, and now we know that some of them did. The government of Belgium actually apologized for voting for the Saudis to go on the Women's Commission. They said their representative on the committee didn't have a chance to call back to Brussels, see what government policy was, and so just did what they'd always done. But Belgian Prime Minister Charles Michel says he regrets the vote. If we could do it again, and if we could have the chance to discuss it at government level, I, of course, would have argued that we not approve this, Michel said. Meanwhile, the British government's been asked as well, but they won't say how they voted, which tells me they likely did vote for the Saudis, but they don't want to admit it. And then we've got Sweden's government. They admitted they voted for the Saudis, but they won't apologize for it. Check out this tweet from journalist Paulina Nuding. Sweden's feminist government admits Sweden did not vote against Saudi Arabia for UN's Women's Rights Commission. Now, you remember Sweden's feminist government, the one that wanted to lecture Donald Trump on how to treat women. And then they went to visit the mullahs in Tehran. They donned hijabs to meet with Iran's leaders. Swedish feminism seems awfully strange to me. You subjugate yourself in Iran, then vote for the oppressive Saudis to go on a women's commission, but you make sure you stand up against Donald Trump. Does any of this make sense to you? Doesn't to me. Meanwhile, there's another feminist government, the one led by Canada's feminist dream boy, Justin Trudeau. He's refusing to condemn the votes for Saudi Arabia. Now, Canada was not on the committee that voted, so they didn't get a chance to cast a ballot. But when asked about it in Parliament, asked to stand up for women's rights, the best that Trudeau's foreign minister, Chrystia Freeland, could do was promote Canada's funding of abortions in third world countries as their government's show of support for feminism. Not a word against the Saudis and how they treat women. What's interesting in all of this is that while these other governments talk a good game, they won't act. I'm not going to say that Donald Trump talks a good game about women. We've all heard the tapes. But given a chance to act, he's standing up for women, for women's rights, while others, well, they talk a good game and then they sit on their hands. The United Nations is an organization that sucks up an awful lot of political time, energy, and money without accomplishing much. It gives too much credence to the views of backwards and oppressive governments like the one in Saudi Arabia. If Donald Trump can shake up that cozy little club and bit by bit force some real change, it might become one of the biggest accomplishments of his presidency. If you like the Rebel video you just watched, make sure you never miss another one again. Click here to subscribe.